Hello and welcome to round 2 of the Apex Racing League GT Team Championship live on Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick, alongside me is Daniel Handover, Alex Simpson operating the cameras tonight, and we're here at the home of British motorsports. It is Silverstone. Daniel, an awesome circuit, a really cool circuit as well in these cars. They can show off their pretty high downforce. These are the absolute fastest GT cars out in the world. And after a very entertaining Daytona round, it will be great to see who ends up on top in this second round of the season.
Absolutely, I think we can probably all agree. Us in the commentary box, and also to everyone watching as well, is Daytona was so action-packed, and a lot of that track is very much flat out where nothing's really going on almost in a sense. So a track like this at Silverstone, it's just action. This is going to be absolutely non-stop with the amount of cars on the grid. The racing is just going to be incredible. I feel this is going to be something that we're gonna have too much racing going on to commentate on all of it. I think, Alex, to be fair.
I think so. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Daytona. I like the racing style of it, but to drive, I can pass on it. These last 3 rounds, though, we got Silverstone, Spa, and Suzuka. Silverstone and Suzuka in particular, I think, are 2 of the best circuits in the world. Spa, it isn't bad either. I think most people would agree. We have got some championship standings. And from the last round, it was Manatee Racing who were on top, Wild Animals in second place, then AAA Esports, Pure Sims Esports, and Vulcan Sim Racing occupying the top 5 places. That can all change so easily. The top of the amateur teams is the Cars Competition 238. They've already had a bit of a setback because they're going to get a post-race penalty for setting the wrong number, so you can always take 10 points off their totes already, which could be costly for them. But Cars Competition 238 leading the amateur standings, Performance Link Esports 285 in second. There's T3 Esports 271 and Go Around Racing Team 223. And there are the standings for you. But in a 4-race championship, no drop scores, of course, and some pretty lucrative points at the top of the standings. It's quite a steep points structure, this. So if you can have a good race, it can easily turn the championship in your favour. So still plenty to play for with 3 rounds of the championship to go. We are currently in the qualifying session, 10-minute qualifying session. Everyone is out on circuit trying to set a good lap time, and they're trying to get that pole position that it was so lucrative at last time. Of course, last time down we had I think the top 6 teams separated by 7/100ths of a second. It was something that I've literally never seen before, and I'm being serious. In 3.5 years of sim racing commentary, I cannot recall having such a close qualifying. We can't expect it to be so close today, but at the moment it is Wild Animals on top. After just missing out on qualifying last week, they have currently got provisional pole.
I mean, to be fair, I'm just looking at it now with Dimitri just putting in another 1:54.96, so that is now the pole time to beat. I mean, Sam, to be fair, you said that we might not be experiencing, may not be expecting as close of a qualifying. I'm looking at the timing standings now, and it's very, very close indeed. You've got 600ths, I've just looked, separating P1 and P2. You've got a 10th behind that is Manatee Racing in P3. So while it isn't as close in terms of what we've seen at Daytona, it's not far off. And we've just got Kenny Rusin that's just put from AAA Esports, has just been a 1:55.03, the number 162 car. So that has just been put up, I believe. As I say that, he's just gone quickest. So AAA Esports now, Kenny Rusin has just put in a 1:54.91 or 9:05. You can see on the timing screens there. So again, it's half a tenth now. So it may not be as close, but it's not going to be far off.
Absolutely, yeah, not a big gap whatsoever out there. And last time we saw the pole sitters, and I'm annoyed that I don't have my special qualifying scores sheet up, which I adore. because it averages out all the times, albeit after one round it's not too representative. We did see the pole sitters from last time out unfortunately drop down the order. On that occasion that was Pacific Sim Motorsports, who just fell down the order once the race started. They're not up there at the moment. Are Pacific back in 10th position, and so qualifying not necessarily representative of the race. And of course this is a team series for those new to joining us. This is a second round of the championship. Pairs of drivers race in this series, and the driver who sets your fastest qualifying time must start the race. Obviously, you can be ever so quick in the first half of the race, change drivers, and it can go disastrously wrong. Ask Evo SR when Tom McMahon drove a decent burst in. James Salt got in the car, actually crashed on his outlap. James Salt, a terrific driver, I will just add, former race winner in the Apex Racing League GT Championship. But things can very quickly change once you change those drivers at the midway stage. Manatee Racing still on a strong lap here, and they are just trying to get some clear air. They've got a bunch of cars in front of them who may not be on quick laps, but Manatee should get a clear run here, and they've set a couple of personal best sectors. This could be dangerous, Dan.
It's very, very quick. I'm just looking. Yep, just keeping an eye on the timing sectors. It was a purple in sector 1 and personal bests in the remainder of the sectors. So he's just going to come over the line, and I think that is going to put him up. Unfortunately, not a change there. So 154.974. But again, it's so close. So now we've got 100th separating the P2 and P3, and we've only got half a tenth separating P1 and P2. So at the moment, I believe that is the end of qualifying. We've got a couple more cars that are still going over the start-finish line, so they've still got a lap to complete. But at the moment, I don't think there's going to be much in terms of adjustments. However, we don't know, as we see, unfortunately, there, that was 3 guys, no name. I can't see who is racing, and that is Bruno Asturi at the moment, going off there, going into club. So unfortunately, he is not going to be able to complete that lap. So I think unless anyone could beat it, which at the moment it doesn't look like they can, Dmitry Kofanov from Wild Animals is going to take pole position, but it's all to play for still.
Oh yeah, that was a late lap time there. Just while you were speaking, Wild Animals managed to put that in and take pole by 2/10. So right at the last, Kopanov, who's in second place in the championship, of course, for Wild Animals, were so close to beating Maniti Racing last time out. They were on the tail of Maniti going on to the last lap, and then went for an over-ambitious move into turn 1. They lost the draft, or set themselves too far back to catch up right at the end, and couldn't take the race win. But they are on pole position then by 1.5 over AAA Esports. Maniti Racing starts in third. Then it is Vulcan Sim Racing. Evo SR just qualifying there for Matthew Chambers, albeit 7/10 off the pole position time. Then it's 3 guys, no team. Vulcan Sim Racing 177. The amateur, no, they're not an amateur driver, sorry. Make Vas Kopska in the Fuga Sim Sports cast lines up in 8th. Then it's Danny Lee for M Science Immortal. Good to see them back up there after qualifying outside the top 20 in round 1. There's Cars Competition, Pacific Sim Motorsports, Valkyrie Esports, Fuga Sim Sports, the 181 Cup. Then it's Pure Sims Esports, Cars Competition, DRS Wave Italy, Fuga Sim Sports, Indie Autosports, Evo SR, and that's the 173 car. The Ignia Motorsports car is in 20th place, and I'll let the other drivers or the other teams go through for you now, because we've got quite a few of them on the grid. We should have 45 teams starts, I think. A couple of teams did get pit lane starts, so we'll not be lining up on the grid, but we'll join the field. I don't think that a couple of Pro Academy guys at the back will be taking the start, unfortunately, so no Tom Stevens or Ryan Jones on the grid. But yeah, 45 teams fielded for this second round of the championship. The Mustang Pace car will soon drive the guys away. Do you think there's any chance of a tow effect? Do you think we'll see any pack racing like we saw at Daytona this time, Daniel, or do you think maybe that a wake will just separate the cars slightly?
It's going to be interesting to see. I think Silverstone normally promotes some pretty close racing. You might have a few breakaways. You might have a few people sort of break maybe the top. It depends. It depends how much the guys are going to be fighting each other, how much they're going to want to be getting track position, or what they're going to try and do is just knuckle down, work together at the start of the race. and then go forward. So it's going to be interesting to see. The pace car is in. We're just waiting for the green lights. Fantastic camera angle there. You can really see the guys 2 by 2. So you've got AAA Project and Project Dynamics. They are both absolutely side by side. No one is wanting to give up any space of what they can. Backing up the grid, ready to go. And I believe that is already, we've got Dimitri that has run away with it. It's got a really good start. He was able to control the pace. Red lights have gone out. So this is it. We are now racing for the start of round 2 of the Apex Racing GT League. Fantastic racing. We've got a little bit of cars sort of going off. They're going a little bit wide going through to the start finish line. It's not the end of the world. It's something that you may get a slowdown, you might not. You've got to be careful of that. Again, people taking it a bit cautious at the moment, but even, I mean, look at Dimitri. He's already a second ahead. He's just head down and checked out at the moment. It's only 3 corners into the race.
Yeah, awesome start for him to be able to drop the rest of the drivers. It was one of the few cars, maybe Taj Edwards, dropping down the order right at the start, and I think he may have. No, I think everyone's still going, so they're going to try to get back to the pits. But you do get a faster pair in this series, but that is not the start that they needed whatsoever. Brilliant start for T3 Esports, who started in 23rd place. They're up to 16th. I think that big collision happened just in front of them, and they were fortunate to be able to avoid it also. They managed to gain a bunch of places. Indy Autosports were involved in that, so great qualifying for Max Wolf. However, he has dropped down the order so far in this race, so he's down to 24th position now for Indy Autosport, but still plenty to race for in this 80-minute event. And it's a brilliant sight to see the cars go through Max and Beckett and Chapel for the first time, as we run aboard with Maniti Racing chasing down the second place guys, and they would have wanted to get past AAA straight away, but I don't think it's too much to be ashamed of to stay behind on the first lap.
No, to be fair, that's very, very true. I think what they've got to do at this point is, it's a long race. What they've got to try and make sure they do is head down. They've already broken a little bit of a gap. We've just got a really, really good onboard camera angle there from the Maniti Racing car. He's still not out of the woods yet. You know, there's about 6/10 of a gap between himself and Luke McCann in the Vulcan Sim Racing car. So it's something you've got to watch out for, but I think drivers at this moment in time are just being a little bit cautious. They're trying to find their feet. They're trying to get the confidence. You've got different track temps. You've got to make sure the car starts to work. You've got heavy fuel as well. That's one thing also to keep in mind. So we may not see as much racing and as much overtaking towards the start, maybe after 4 or 5 laps when everyone, like I said, finds their feet. Then they'll start getting a bit more confidence in what the car's able to do, how the car's behaving. Because these cars, they're very, very, it can be, subject to change quite drastically depending on track conditions, track temperatures, everything. So even wind direction can obviously have an effect as well. So there's lots and lots of things. It's a long race. They don't want to do anything silly. They don't want to race too hard, race for position, because ultimately what they're going to do is just drop back. If you've got 2 people racing, for example, and you've got the guy at the head, those 2 will be battling, so P5, P6, for example, battling. If they slow each other up, they're just going to lose time to everyone ahead. They're also going to allow everyone behind to catch up, for example. So, strategy's already playing a part, and like I said, we're only 3 minutes into the race.
Yeah, it sure is. Good start, by the way. We were riding forward with M-Science, so more time a couple of places. So good start for Danny Lee, and of course Dean Powell, his teammate, and Danny Lee finishing in 2nd place in the overall championship last season. I think M-Science may have even finished 3rd place in the team's championship as well, so that was all very impressive. This is quite a long queue of cars right now. So at the front of this is Justin Holtz for WS Racing, who I think we saw yesterday in the Movember 6-hour endurance race at Le Mans, and this battle goes all the way back to Max Wolf for Indy Autosport, with that poor start, of course, for Wolf. I'm not sure if we'll be able to see maybe a replay. I'm sure there's plenty of events going on, Alex, but we of course had that first, it wasn't even first corner, but it was before the race even started, that collision, I believe for John Gordon for Buga Sim Sports, but I think probably best bet is to try and find anything with Indy Autosports and Max Wolf being involved. Because that was all got a bit messy. I thought we maybe even needed a safety car at one point if a car slid across the circuit, but we didn't have any worries like that, and we managed to continue on our way up to 1.2 seconds. Kopnov just opening up that gap by about 1/10 of a second on that last tour round. And looks as though we might have a bit of a queue forming behind 3 guys, no team at the moment, in 5th place. They are up a place from their start, but they are falling into the clutches of EVSR 144 at the moment, and then they got their old nemesises, M-Science and Multiple Rights on their turn.
Yeah, I'm just having a look through. So obviously currently at the moment on the main focus of the screen is Matty Chambers for Evo SR. It's a very, very close battle. Again, there's not as much overtaking. Again, drivers, like I said before, they're being a bit cautious. What they don't want to do as well is, and this is one thing to note as well for everyone, for the people watching as well, is the iRacing incident point system. It can be quite harsh going on the exit of cops. You have that little bit of leeway over the curbs. Any more than that, you've got to be very, very careful, because another foot over the curb, a bit too much, you're going to get an off track. If you go really wide, I believe, unless they've changed it since our last race round, it's a slowdown as well. So if you get it wrong going through cops, there's a pretty good chance that definitely an off track or even a slowdown for you. So teams have got to watch out for that as well. At the moment, we've just got 3 guys, no team. That's very, very close. It's getting very close going into club. This is the battle for 5th position. Currently, Bruno Asturias holding off Matty Chambers, although he's looking very, very racy indeed at the moment. Is he going to try and move? I don't know. He may very well do. The Porsche is really good on the brakes. That's one thing that really where the Porsche does excel. The BM's a really good all-round car. Okay, so it's got good turning, it's got good acceleration, it's got good top end. The Porsche though is so good on the brakes, so that's where most of the overtaking, I believe, will be done in the braking zones for the Porsche. That's really where they excel. But the BM has got some really, really good drive out the corner, so it does potentially even itself out. Again, setups do have an effect in that as well. But at the moment, Bruno Asturias holding off and currently sitting in P5, and he's holding that position from Matty Chambers and Danny Lee, who's just sitting there. I think at the moment what Danny's trying to do, he's trying to let these guys battle. He's like, come on guys, you know, he's basically saying to Matt in his mind, going, come on, try and make that overtake, slow each other up, and then I'll try and zip up the inside. So we're going to see, excited to see how this race develops. I'm just looking at the front as well. The gap has now gone up another 10th. It's not as much here as we've just got a replay here. Not entirely sure what this is at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately not coming up on my screen. It might not be coming up on your screen either, Jambo. It might be coming up for the viewers. It will just be the potential replay of what happened at the start, a little bit of the chaos that's occurred. Let's go back to live pictures and with Cars Competition, who are the top amateur team going into this round. By the way, the amateurs can be signalled by their car number. So if you've got a 2 at the front of the number, then that's an amateur. If you've got a 1 at the front of the number, then you are a pro. Unfortunately, there's a couple of some of the colours aren't quite matched up, but on the most part they are correct down the order. There's just a couple of exceptions, so you can see those numbers up on screen, and that is hard to distinguish between them. One's 3 wide going into Vale and Club. That is Chris van der Nesse of Performance Link, and he's defending against Max Wolf, who are in the auto spot, but I think Wolf might be past here to go alongside one another. Van der Nesse just getting his car back ahead, but here comes Wolf again. They've got the Bugle car right on the tail as well. John Gordon, after a slightly poor start for Gordon, both Bugle Sports cars at that Performance Link, trying to go around the outside. Van der Nesse just dropping down the order. He's usually a much better racer than qualifier. He's starting to head backwards, some good defence into the loop, and he stays ahead. Gordon, meanwhile, being overtaken by JP Genjon, who's a very high I-rated driver. In fact, actually, that's another Ferguson Sports car, and of course, Kev Copeland for Pro Academy in amongst them as well. Really exciting racing at the moment. That's an ambitious move there from Gordon, almost onto the perimeter. Right there was the Pro Academy Sim Sports car. Hangs to turn out of the corner slightly. Gordon retakes that position, so they're battling a lot, losing each other a lot of time, but trying to keep track position as they contact now with the Fugu car coming across slightly, and this is starting to get a little bit personal, and this is when accidents come out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at this is a very, very close battle, but I fear at the moment, again, cars are really heavy. You know, guys, calm down. It's 10 minutes into an hour and 20-minute race. We don't need to be racing this hard, and this is one of the things I was talking about at the start of the race, is this battling. It's just allowing the guys up ahead to just gap that position. You can already see a bit of a break that's happened there between, I'm looking at that, is between Gordon and Chris van der Nest. So the gap has already opened up. We're just riding on board now with JP Gendron, currently in P27. So again, he's just watching this battle unfold in front of him. He's not really trying to get involved, which at the moment I think is the wisest thing to do. Very, very late in the break. So Corvette seems to be really working around here at the moment, I think. It seems to be working. The brakes seem to be really good on it. Again, it looks really stable under braking. There's not much movement through the wheel. You don't see the drivers really sort of wrestling the car, which is some of the problems. While the Porsche is very, very good at the brakes, sometimes you do have that. You have to really wrestle that car under some really heavy braking toes. But the Corvette looking pretty strong at the moment. Yeah, I think Gendron is just watching this battle unfold as we see Gordon go ever so slightly wide going through turn 3. It's going to compromise turn 4. And we see Gendron actually getting a really, really good exit. Is he going to try and make the move and get the run going down into turn 6? So we're going to go into Brooklands now. I don't think he's quite got the straight line speed at the moment. He could very well make a last lunge going to Brooklands. He's pulled out of the slipstream. Doesn't quite make the move stick, although I think at this moment in time he's just putting his nose, trying to upset the, Copeland. And I think, to be fair, he's actually put him off a little bit. Compromised Copeland's line going through Luffield. And again, now run down to Copse. Everyone going very, very wide here. This is still a battle that's very, very close. And what you find as well, the gap and the cars have really started to, the gaps have started to increase. However, what we have seen, those gaps can close right back up very, very quickly indeed. As we've just now gone on board. This is with the P10. We're actually going to go through 3 guys no name with Bruno Asturi again holding off Matty Chambers in P5, but I don't think he's going to be holding him off much longer as he goes through. Matty Chambers takes P5, and I think, unfortunately, Bruno's lost another position to, that is Danny Lee that's going to make a position on him. Is it, though? As I say that, we've got Bruno Asturi going through, cutting off Lee going through Club. Really cracking racing from these guys. Really, really fair, really clean. They're just putting their cars in the position that they need to be. Fantastic racing by these guys. But again, this is really allowing Matty Chambers to just disappear up ahead. What he needs to do now, head down, try and gap Bruno Asturi and Danny Lee as much as he can. He's already done that, though. The gap is nearly a second already. It's only been about 3 corners. So the more that these guys battle, Matty Chambers is going to be like, thank you very much, chaps, and he's just going to go off into the distance. But really, really close racing from these guys. It's really, really good to watch.
Yeah, it sure is. And speaking to some of the guys before the race, apparently the Porsche was by far the fastest car here, as that was a little bit of a late block potentially from the 3 guys no team. They'll get away with that one, but Danny trying to get past. The BMW does tend to be quite quick down the straights, however, albeit in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT series, which does use fixed setup, so it's not a perfect resource. In that, the Ford was the fastest car down the straights. However, we've got no Fords out here, so I'm pretty sure that the BMW is the fastest car. As off goes Emstein and Sim Waltzel, and are they going to reach the wall? They do a bit, and they may need to pit for repairs. And after a much better round 2 than their round 1, it's all gone very south for them very quickly. And the team that they collided with, I believe, was Vulcan Sim Racing with Mick Anderson. And here it was then, so Anderson chasing him down. He was ever so close, and I can only imagine Lee was just a little bit earlier on the brakes than he expected. And that could well be a penalty for Vulcan Sim Racing. 177 car post-race.
I think, unfortunately, yeah, as much as no, you don't want to see them. Just got another replay camera angle here. I think the gap was so close. Just going to again have a look at it again. He pulls out, trying to again. I think, yeah, to me that looks like. Unfortunately, yeah, I would agree with you. I would probably say that would be a penalty for Mick Anderson. Unfortunate, obviously we don't like to see that, especially that early in the race. But I think, yeah, as he sort of put the nose out, going through Copse again to try and upset the back of Danny Lee, who hasn't pitted actually. So maybe he's thinking that the damage isn't that bad. It looks to be sort of superficial, maybe some aero damage, so he might lose a bit of time on the straights. Car's looking okay. Be interesting to see what lap times he starts to put in. But at the moment, this is coming to battle for 19th place. He's trying to work his way up the field. He's potentially going to make a move, going through turn 4, gets blocked off completely by the BMW of, I believe that was Wolf in the 218 BMW there. So getting completely the door shut on him there, but he has got some pace. I'm sure he's going to be wanting to get those positions back. Yeah, that is a big shame, but I think, unfortunately, yeah, that will be a penalty there. As you pull out, you've got to make sure the person behind is responsible to make sure an overtake is made safely. And yeah, it is a shame because regardless whether it was obviously not intentional, it is something that's going to have to be looked at after the race. So a bit of a shame there. Again, what both drivers need to do now at this point is put this issue behind, put that incident behind them, crack on. There's some more positions to be made. There's still, well over, just over an hour left. So there's a long way to go in this race. Okay, so it's not all over yet. There's definitely some positions to be had. So yeah, both drivers need to just put this issue behind them, put the incident behind, crack on, and focus on the remainder of this race. Because as we saw from Daytona, Sam, and you will agree with me on this, I'm sure, anything can happen, even in the last 2-3 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. They're certainly going to gain some pace. Dean Powell's not a slow driver. He's maybe on average half a second slower than Daniel Lee, so I think they could certainly still get a top 15 out of this one, which would be some decent points. They're not exactly going for the championship RM signs as well. So in fact, actually the lowest I-rated pro team. Usually they would be in the amateur championship, as Daniel Lee was showing in the early stages as well. So his I-rating isn't very high. His capabilities are certainly very good, and so they were put into the pro category. So not fighting for the title necessarily, they're just trying to get some good results, and they can still do that today. The two Indy Autosports cars are quite close. So Brian Kroon, who had a couple of terrific races in the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship, which ended the other day. Congratulations to Nick Madsen and Kev Copeland, who is out on track today on their respective titles in that one. But yeah, Kroon has some good performances. Max Wolf is pretty much an Apex Racing League veteran, and they are very even at the moment. Kroon up 7 places, Wolf down 3, however. But the 218 is looking slightly faster, and I think the 218 is going to be one of the favourites as well for the amateur category, albeit, or for the amateur championship, albeit I don't think they scored any points in round 1. So I've got some catching up to do. But at the moment, can't get past both in the BMW, and I think Wolf is being quite patient behind his teammate. Might just be worth tuning in with the top 3 at the moment, because something of note, the top 3 in this race are the same top 3 as we had in the last race, albeit Manatee won last time, Wild Animals were second and AAA were third. But it is those same 3 cars, and they have got quite a gap over the rest of the order. 3 seconds separates the top 3 at the moment. And it does look like those cars are the favourites for the overall championship. If you had to put a bet on it right now, they do seem to have a small pace advantage on the rest. As it's still Indy Autosport getting stuck in. It seems like they're getting stuck behind T3. You had such an awesome start. You were up 4 places, so it wasn't an amazing start to be fair, but up 4 places for Fabian Meyer, and are struggling to keep up the pace since then, as Danny Lee just moves up behind them. As we see what happened to Tony Hayes just a moment ago, and he's down 6 places from his start, and this was a spin for Taj Edwards, I believe, and then Hayes gets a big old shove from behind as well.
Yeah, a bit of a shame from that. Unfortunately, that's obviously not good for Tony Hayes there. Hopefully he's all got going, and I believe he has indeed. So we've just gone on to we've gone to the leader, so we're going to go back to wildanimals.org, the number 127 Porsche car. Gap is now up to 2 seconds. So little increments being made from Dimitri. He's pulling away ever so slightly. It's, only a 10th a lap, or sometimes even less than a 10th a lap, but it's all of these that do add up. However, we have seen, and we saw at Daytona, is one small little mistake. We actually saw it in the broadcast we were doing yesterday as well, Sam, obviously, which we both commentated on. Is a small little mistake, especially with a race that is so close, can really be costly. If you lose 4 seconds, even now, if a slowdown potentially, if you get a slowdown coming off of coming onto the hangar straight out of Beckett's, that's a 3-second slowdown. Obviously, it does take a little bit longer than 3 seconds to really get rid of it. So you could potentially lose 2 or even 3 places, even though the gap at the moment is about 2 seconds between P1 and P2. So drivers are still got to be careful. A 2-second gap with the strength of field and the quality of drivers in this event, 2 seconds is something that can be very, very tricky to gain that gap. but it can be very, very easy to lose that gap as well. Okay, so consistency is definitely key here. But at the moment, though, Dimitri is just a 1:56.295, over or nearly half a second quicker than Kenny Rusen in the AAA Esports Porsche, the number 162 car. Manisi Racing, though, in the Corvette, still putting some good lap times in, still keeping with them. So at the moment, the top three have pulled out a gap. It's a little bit, obviously we've got 2.2 seconds now, the gap from first to second, and a further second between P2 and P3. Traffic, though, again, that's one thing we haven't mentioned, to be fair, Sam, is once traffic starts getting into play, I think traffic was easier to manage at Daytona. Somewhere like Silverstone, it's going to be a little bit more tricky, especially with the amount of cars that we've got on the grid. So I'm sure there are going to be some positions that are going to close. There's going to be gaps, some gaps that are going to close up. There's going to be some gaps that are going to also get bigger as well, because traffic is going to be such a key and crucial factor. That's really going to potentially could throw a big spanner in the works for some of these guys. Falcon Sim Racing at the moment with Luke McLeod currently on his lonesome a little bit here. He's just running his own race. It's never a bad thing. At the moment, he's just hot lapping at the moment here. Similar to what Matty Chambers is doing, he's just on his lonesome a little bit here. Got a couple of seconds in hand to three guys, no team. So Matty Chambers, from when he made the move on three guys, he's really capitalised on it and has pulled away from them. So cracking start and some really good racing from Matty Chambers. And throughout the field, though, it's all been pretty close. Apart from that little incident that we had, a couple of incidents here and there, it's been really close racing. So looking forward to see how this race develops within the next hour.
Yeah, and a nice part of that is forming at the moment is just the James Salt Evo SR in 18th place at the moment, and they have got quite a queue of cars behind them. I wonder if we can get cameras on that, because that looks like it could erupt at any moment. And yeah, we're pretty close down the order. That's top 10 though. Little gaps between each of the teams. Yuga Sim Racing doing pretty well there, as we do go back to Evo SR, who are running the C8. This ran the Ford last season. I think they might be regretting not running the Ford again. Of course, Tom McMahon, the defending champion. And interestingly, Salt taking the start this time. So last time it was McMahon who took the start, and Salt then got in the car for the second half of the race. I did say it earlier on, I'm sure James doesn't want me to remind everyone of it, but he did crash on his first lap out through the bus stop at Daytona, as that is Daniel Lee with a nice lead into the lead. He's got pretty aggressive. He made one at Vale earlier on, Daniel Lee. But he's up into 21st position now, so good drive there from the Ensigns UK car, albeit you can see visibly he is struggling a bit down the straights with that damage he picked up. But yeah, Evo SR changing drivers, so Salt starts in the race and then McMahon will get in later on. And so that team will probably get faster. Usually McMahon in the last couple of seasons has had maybe probably 0.6 of a second on Salt, I'd say. So you might be able to move up into the top 10 by the end of the race, potentially. Evo SR, such is the talents of Tom McMahon, was the two-time defending champion. Fabian Meyer in the T3 Esports car. All of a sudden he was on the back of Evo SR. He's dropped back a bit now, and is in the Autosports, who have been chasing him down for a while. Brian Kroon in the car. That means they might just have a good chance there, but you can see how much Lee has caught as well. He's really racing by extremely quickly. These guys lapping about a second slower than what the drivers were that Lee was racing with earlier on. There goes Lee down the inside. That's a bit too ambitious and to stay. But I think it's only a matter of time until he negotiates these couple of cars.
Absolutely, Danny Lee is on an absolute mission to try and take a position up. He's going to try and make the move through Club. There he's very close. There was contact there. You just heard it. A little bit more contact there for Danny Lee. Unfortunately, that corner and that complex, the last section went from bad to worse for him, unfortunately. I think he was just, again, a little bit too eger. Doesn't look like...
It's got a lot of damage.
It's got a lot of damage now. A lot of car damage. And I believe... I'm just trying to see who that is as well. The car in front of him. Yeah, so both cars have got damage. You can visibly see the steering wheel. So just behind the timing screen there, you can actually see how much he's having to put the steering lock on driving in a straight line. And I think that has just confirmed it. So is there going to be a tow? He may very well tow back. He may try and go back to the pits. Like, so these guys have got a fast repair. So he needs to jump in the pits, get that fast repair done, and then get back out on track. Unfortunately, he has dropped down to 28th position. But yeah, Danny Lee was a man on a mission. It's just unfortunate we have got, it's not gone so well for him. So yeah, just coming through. This is the replay of that incident here. So just go through. It was a very, very late move. And I think, unfortunately, yeah, Danny Lee was just, it just went from bad to worse for him. So the number 2, the 211 car, I believe that is Brian Kroon for Indy Autosport. Yeah, just unfortunately taking the brunt of that impact. And yeah, that's really put Danny Lee out of the race. I think for any potential top 10s, I think, has now gone out the window, which is a big shame for Danny Lee. But hopefully he can pull it back and try and salvage something from this race. Current back on the screen at the moment is Ben Palmer in the Pure Sims Esports car. This is the battle for P10 with Kairos Competition. Currently in P11, hunting him down. Pretty even Stevens at the moment from these guys. However, as we have known, could all change. One little mistake could really put this battle into play. And also, as we have said as well, let's not forget you've got Valkyrie Esports and Kairos Competition as well in P12 and 13. So if these guys start battling, that's going to close the gap up as well. So also one thing to watch out for. But at the moment, I'm just looking at timings here. So Ben Palmer, last lap was a 157.38. And Kairos Competition from Emil, that was a 157.53. So a couple of tenths he's pulled out of him there. So interesting to see if this lap times are maintained, if he can keep this momentum going forward. And again, looking through, so Christopher Beats in the Pacific Sim Motorsports car was a 56.95, so very, very close from all of these three here, which again leads me to say if there is a little mistake from one of these guys, that could really play a factor. It could really bunch the field up, as we've just got, as you can see at the bottom of your screen in the pit stop, number 30 or P36 now is Danny Lee. He is in the pits. Whether he's going to, I doubt he's going to do the driver change. He could very well just stay out in the car, but a fast repair, I imagine, will be taken. So just coming over to half a minute. Is he going to go a lap down? I believe he will be going a lap down to the leaders. So a bit of a shame here. But this is the battle now for P21, for 21st, as I say that. That's, this has all started kicking off now. So currently the focus for Dent O'Connor in the Pure Sims Freem car. Yeah, the battle for P21. Although this is the battle at the moment between Pro Academy Simsports car and the AAA Project car, I believe. So yeah, this is the battle for P23. At the moment, we've got Kev Copeland looking very, very racy in the number 269 Ferrari. Got a really good speed indicator as well on the right-hand side. You can see what they're doing as well, going through. Sometimes what you find is you can be really, really aggressive down the gears. It's interesting to see they're nice and smooth going through Maggots and Beckett's. So one thing to note as well with these GT cars is you can upset the balance of them if you're quite aggressive on the down changes. So going through Maggots and Beckett's in the complex, you'll find most drivers, they're nice and controlled through their gearing. They're not sitting there waiting until the last minute and then really going down the gears quickly. Is they're nice and smooth. What that does is that settles the car actually going through that whole complex. Okay, so that's one thing, again, just a little bit of an insight for people in terms of how the GTU cars do behave. It's amazing how much even something such as a gear change can really help with how the car behaves, especially through a complex, a tricky complex like Maggots and Beckett's.
Yeah, and that's all devices that the drivers will be thinking of. Of course, hopefully done plenty of practice for this round. As AAA Project X, William Leiber gets ahead. He starts on the pits, so he started in 44th position, not so place. Albeit maybe he would be last, to be honest, depending where his pit stall was, and he's up to 21st, so he's escalated half the order. And certainly a team who are well out of position. Unfortunately, they rear-ended a team last time out, hence why they are starting from the back. And meanwhile, Kev Copeland, I don't know who that spot is. Of course, Copeland winning the Porsche, the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship back on Wednesday. His second championship in Apex Racing League history. So in 23rd at the moment, not far off or one of the top amateur teams at the moment, our Pure Academy. He's having to defend right now from Indy Autosports, who are around the outside. Nice move there from the 218 car. And that was Max Wolf who got involved in Daniel Lee. Admittedly, both Indy Autosports cars got involved in that one. Also, Fuga Sim Sports are ahead of three guys, no team. I think that's a move that has just occurred. So that was an important move there for Make Kopsuka. Second place in the Apex Racing League GT Championship 2 seasons ago, and has won multiple races in this championship, and he's moved up into 6th position. This is how he did it. Surprisingly far way back. I'm just wondering if it's maybe a slowdown for Asturi. That's I think it was. And the Corvette well in the Revenant as well does make his way past. Maybe Asturi was thinking, well, I'll let him pass and save a bit of fuel. Just a reminder as well about the fuel limit rules, as we've still got Asturi under pressure. The drivers are limited to 75% fuel, which means that they can go approximately 45 minutes into this race. So for example, Daniel Lee, who had to pit before, he can go to the end of the race from here. Also, each driver has to do 10 laps in the car, or the fair share, but that would be pretty simple to do. So expect the drivers to come in around the 35 to 45 minute mark, and that's pretty much the range of laps that you can opt into the pits for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just focusing on this battle here. So you've got Mick Anderson from Volkenstein Racing really trying to capitalise on the position lost by 3 guys no name. Unfortunately couldn't quite do it. I think what Mick was trying to do is really follow suit from Fugger and trying to follow Make through in that position, trying to get him. He can't quite do it though, so he's lost a little bit of time here. So 3 guys no name starting to pull away a little bit from the number 177 Porsche. I think what Bruno needs to do, I think he was trying to save a bit of fuel. However, we've got Fugger Simsport that are just really putting in some good lap times. Already pulled a little bit of a gap as well. So 0.7 of a second is the gap from between P6 and P7. So he's already started pulling a little bit. I can imagine that Mick doesn't want to be sitting behind Bruno too much longer. He's going to want to try and follow in a Fugger Simsport footsteps and potentially try and catch up to the back of him. Although, in saying that, I know I do keep talking about it and it's one of my favourite things to talk about, but fuel saving. Are drivers going to be fuel saving, or are they going to be really getting the hammer down and try and try to make some positions? If Vulcan Sim Racing, if Mick can save a little bit of fuel behind Bruno, at the moment, I don't think Bruno is going to be able to save enough fuel because he hasn't quite got the pace to keep up with Fugger Simsport. So, as we just see, as I said, the commentator's curse, unfortunately, Vulcan Sim Racing, that was Mick having a bit of a spin and unfortunately a bit of grass cutting as well. Luckily, though, a safe rejoin by the looks of it as well. He's playing it safe, he's playing it cautious. He's not trying to, he doesn't want to be pushing out in front of anyone. So, fair play as much as it is. It's so frustrating. I do feel Mick's pain there. It's so frustrating to have a spin like that, especially when it's on your own accord. But he was very controlled, very calm. He joined when he needed to. Yes, he has lost a fair few positions, currently now down in P16. But again, it was definitely the safest move and the safest thing that he could possibly do. So he's now in a battle for P14. I'm sure with the pace that he had, he's really got some positions to make up. So it'll be interesting to see how Mick now moves through the field. But yeah, bit of a shame from him there, unfortunately.
Yeah, taking a wheel onto the grass seemingly. There was also a little bit of an off for Valkyrie Esports, and remarkably they have now reached the same bit of circuit, but Valkyrie I think just was about 5 seconds through Stowe on the last lap, so they are now 15th and Vulcan in 16th, so maybe a little bit out of position are those 2 teams. But shame for Vulcan because, as you were saying, it was a safe rejoin, but he lost a lot of time. I can see now it's quite a simple spin. To lose 15 seconds like that will be very frustrating for him. It does promote Pacific Simsport up into 8th position. However, we are really getting to pit stop territory now in a couple of minutes away. I do question whether we'll see a few drivers in. That's more important than ever at the front of the order because it's still Dmitry Kofanov for Wild Animals Orca leading the way. Kenny Rusens for Triple A Esports running in 2nd place, and then Manatee Racing with Alexander Massia at the wheel running in 3rd position. So those top 3, about 4 seconds, 2 seconds between each one of them. That will be tricky to really get the undercut or the overcut, but with a little bit of traffic, that could make a difference, so something to keep an eye on. That does seem like it's going to be a three-way race for this race win. Of course, they will change drivers when they come in for their pit stop, so the whole complexion of the race can change very quickly, but both those teams have got very good strength in depth. Don't expect a massive pace difference for any of them. Still, Vulcan Sim Racing trying to move up, but residing in 16th place. It's one of the closest battles out on circuit at the moment. And also Piazza versus Weisbicki a bit further up, 12th and 13th. DRS Wave and Ignium Motorsports fighting out on that one. So go back to Valkyrie, yeah, just still trying to get past.
Yeah, no, this is turning out to be a very, very good battle indeed. So at the moment, the focus is on the number 6 or P16, the number 177 Vulcan Sim Racing of Mick Anderson, who just a couple of laps ago had that spin. He is a man on a mission, and he's going to be looking to make up at least 2 positions within the next few laps. Again, he's dropped a little bit back, although, as we see there, we've got Valkyrie Esports going to make a move up the inside of Stowe. That's very, very brave indeed, but both drivers just giving enough room as we've got there slowly being pushed out. You've got WS Racing being pushed out. At the moment, the focus is now switched to Bastien De Silva of that 117 car. So he has now taken P14, a cracking move from him, Bastien De Silva, going up through Stowe. It's a very, very tricky corner to overtake, especially in the GT car, where you haven't got as much downforce as a full-on LMP car. So very, very brave through there, really utilising not only the aero grip available, but you've got to maximise the lateral grip through the tyres and really use both of those to your advantage. But at the moment, as we see there, that was a very, very late lunge from Vulcan Sim Racing. So Mick Anderson capitalising on the move that Valkyrie Esports made. So Justin Holtz has moved down from P14 to P16 in the space of about 4 corners. So unfortunately for him here, what he needs to do, crack on, try and latch onto the back of Mick in the 177 Porsche. Potentially going to make the move back, I'm not entirely sure, we'll have to wait and see, but he already seems to have dropped back a couple of tenths. So Mick Anderson, again, like I said, a man on a mission. He is going to be looking to take Bastien De Silva's position and move up into P14. Cracking racing from these guys. But yeah, a bit of a shame actually. I think, if I'm honest, I don't think Justin was actually expecting to lose 2 laps. It's amazing how, especially through the first sector at Silverstone, you can really lose, I wouldn't say composure, that's the wrong word for it, but you can really lose momentum going through the first sector. It's a very, very fluid section, it's a flowing section as well. So if you get overtaken, it's very hard to gain the composure back, I suppose, a little bit. Like I said, within the first maybe sector of Silverstone with the new complex. So yeah, a bit of a shame. Like I said, at the moment, he's got some good pace. He's maintaining the gap as well from Razaholics, the number 287 BMW. But yeah, unfortunately, he has dropped back from Vulcan Sim Racing and Valkyrie Esports. But just look at the timing zones. The battle for 14th, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, the gap is now under half a second. The gap's now actually dropped to 0.2 of a second. So this is the battle for P14, and Mick Anderson is going to be looking to try and make that position as much as he can. It's actually dropped off a little bit, so the gap has now gone back up to 0.5. But I think this could very well be only a matter of time before Mick makes the move on Bastien. So one battle to watch out for, definitely. Like I said, it's Porsche on Porsche, so we haven't actually got any variation of cars here. So these 2 cars are neck and neck in terms of the BOP between these cars. Obviously, there's no difference. There's no difference in the manufacturers. So it is Porsche versus Porsche. So it's who can get the most out of their car at this stage of the race. Looking a bit further up the field, as we've got, I believe that is Dan Piazza, who's a couple of tenths off of, I believe that is the number 8, or the number 238 car of Kairos competition. Just looking at the interval, yes, the gap is about 0.2 of a second, so very, very close between those guys. So that can be battle heating up as we just see Mick Anderson going a little bit wide through Luffield. Just seemed to be getting on the power a bit too soon, just promoting some underassist. That dropped him back a little bit. He's lost about half a second. I don't think that's going to be too much of a worry for him. He knows he's got pace at this moment in time. So again, he needs to make sure that he gains the composure back and really try and latch onto the back of them. But at the moment, Pure Sims Freem having a bit of a battle with Ignium Motorsport, and that's going too wide through Cops. That's very, very brave indeed, guys. But both managed to give each other enough space. This is a very, very good battle indeed. And I believe Pure Sims, yes, Pure Sims coming out on top, going through into Maggots and Beckett. So good battle for these guys. There's racing throughout the field, Sam, which is always what we like.
Yeah, there sure is. There's barely a place on the circuit where there isn't some fighting going on. And PSM's Dream, who are maybe a little bit out of position. They're one place up from their start, and yeah, trying to just hold back Ignium. However, Ignium up the inside to stay. And they'll stay alongside into the next couple of corners. Vulcan Sim Racing further up the road. That is the 177 car into the pits for their one and only pit stop. And that is just before the halfway mark. So this is still a pretty high fuel consumption circuit, to be fair. I mean, compared to, say, a club circuit where you can imagine you're on the brakes a lot more and on the throttle a lot less. But compared to Daytona, which is one of the highest fuel consumption circuits on iRacing, this place will be quite easy to get the one stop done, as Razaholics, who were in second position in the amateur category, they are still in second place in the amateur category, but they have had an off and are down to 18th place now. And that is Eric O'Connor at the wheel of that one. Third place, apologies, the two cars competition cars are leading that one. But yeah, Razaholics are unfortunately going off the circuit, spinning up the tyres and dropped to 18th, so that is a shame for them, as we see Dan Piazza for the DRS Wave Italy GTE car. Interestingly, they were running in pretty much this exact position last week for the entire race, like kind of outskirts of the top 10. And they've got Ignium Motorsports right on their tail. Where did the 126 actually finish last time out? I think they may have been in this territory, maybe a little bit further down. In fact, the 126 last time didn't quite have a perfect round. Yeah, in fact, 30th place for Ignium last time, so a much better performance from them so far in today's event, with just 39 minutes to go. Neither of them come into the pits, and Piazza, I imagine, might even have saved, apologies, Weiserbick, may have saved a little bit of fuel behind Piazza, and if you can go one that further, that's going to be quite an advantage, because it means that you don't have to come into the pits and come out in traffic. You can get a nice clear air, and I think that could be the difference of 2 or 3 seconds potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been interesting to see this battle unfold, and like I said, there's a long way to go in this race. You know, strategy is obviously going to play its factor into it, definitely. So, you know, I'm going to see how the race does play out. We've got 41 minutes into this race on lap number 22. We've probably got a couple of traffic is really going to start playing a factor, I think, once the pit stops come through as well. So let's be, we'll definitely be on the lookout for that. At the moment, this is the battle for P19. We've got T3 Esports and Fuga Sim Sports, with Indy Autosports not far behind as well. So this battle could become very, very close very, very soon. As we've got a lot of people, you can see in the bottom telemetry on the screen, we've got a lot of people in the pits now. So this is about the window that they want to be. I'm just looking also through the YouTube chat as well. One of the things as well that I would like to say, if you haven't already, please do get involved on the YouTube chat. It gives us something to, it gives us some points to discuss as well. There could be something that we could be talking about and discussing. So do get involved on the YouTube chat. It makes the commentating as well, to be able to interact with you guys, really, really enjoyable as well. So we've got Owen Jones saying the car number 238 Kairos competition doing very, very well indeed, and that is very true. They're currently running in P11 with O'Donnell currently in that car. So the number 238 Porsche, very, very good looking car indeed. Sam, I think to be fair at the moment, is anything or anyone that's really stood out to you for the moment in terms of this race, as we just see Kairos competition jumping into the pits?
I mean, that top 3 were really have been the class of the field so far, so certainly their level of consistency, keeping that 2-second gap between all of them, was certainly was very impressive earlier on. AAA Esports and Manatee Racing both into the pits, so second and third place teams into the pits at the moment, and it was AAA ahead of Manatee before the pit stop started, and they are just changing their drives at the moment. And I think it's still AAA just ahead of Manatee Racing, who I think are stationary for a little bit longer. Manatee's still stationary, in fact. They're down to 18th position. And Dylan Scrivens getting into that car. And yeah, a long pit stop then for Dylan Scrivens. Don't know if we get cameras on them in the Manatee Racing car. We're dropping outside the top 20 at the moment, and the championship leaders having an absolute mare right now because they have been stationary now for a minute, and you should only be stationary for about 30 seconds. And so I do not know what is going on with this car at the moment. Here we go, but that was 1 minute 11 stationary. There must have been a 40-second penalty, but I don't know what they could have got a 40-second penalty for. Yeah, I'm not sure how you can get a 40-second penalty around here. I mean, I guess speeding on pit entry, or maybe an unsafe pit entry, but then it's pretty tricky to do here. You can't just follow the lane into the pits, and that's about it. So massive shame for the championship leaders, and that could change the championship lead after this race, as wild animals also come into the pits. So we need to keep an eye on wild animals to see if they come out of the pits in the lead of the race ahead of AAA Esports. So yeah, that's going to be the big thing here, as we see a late move there. DRS Wave being overtaken by Ignium Motorsports on the pit entry.
Very, very brave indeed, I think, to be fair to say. We've just got Yope saying on the YouTube chat, so Alex may or may not have got a penalty for speeding, so that would make sense for why he was in the pits for so long. Okay, so that 40-second penalty for speeding, I imagine speeding in the pit lane. So what you find, you do have to make sure that these pit limiters, for anyone who doesn't race on iRacing, is these pit limiters are all, manual. So you have to set the pit limiters as you go into the pits yourself. You've got, as you would have in every other motorsport, both real and virtual, you have the pit line. You have to be at a certain speed, at the pit lane speed, before you get to that line. If you run over it and you don't hit the pit lane speed limit quick enough, or you're not at the pit lane speed limit by the time you get across that line, and that's where you get a penalty. So that could be very well what that penalty was for. Very unfortunate through them. We got another comment saying Perfect Vision Racing is doing very, very well. And to be fair, I believe they've just come out of the pit, and they are at the moment, they're dropping down the field a little bit, but in class, they are. I'm just looking through. What are they? Are they 5th or 6th in class? They're doing very, very well indeed, those guys.
Yeah, they sure are. So yeah, we're one of the higher rating amateur teams. As our turn screen's absolutely going crazy. You can see it, where drivers coming into the pits. Everyone came into the pits within about 3 laps of one another, and crucially, Wild Animals keeping their lead over AAA Esports. They were stationary for 31.03 seconds and 31.23 seconds respectively. So barely any difference in the fuel intake there for the top 2 teams, and they are first and second. Then that timing penalty, or that speeding penalty, sorry. For Manatee Racing just a few moments ago, sent them down to 14th position now. So they are in 14th place. So that is bad news for Manatee Racing, and they've got a lot of catching up to do in the 179 car. And the podium's going to be off for them, and as long as Wild Animals win this race or finish second, they will be taking the championship lead in that case. Only 4 rounds, of course, in this inaugural Apex Racing League GT Team Championship, and so a mistake like that could be very disastrous. However, Manatee still with a good chance of maybe getting into the top 8, certainly. I think they could maybe get as high as Pacific Sim Sports, 3 guys no team. I think that'll be the extent of their event. As alongside right now for 13th position, this is DRS Wave going a long way round Ignium Motorsports, and these two were locked together before the pit stops even occurred. Unfortunately for Ignium, they have been able to stay ahead. So yeah, it's Jacko Boschoff who runs wide now. They're both out of shape, and they've lost each other a bunch of time, and Manatee Racing might get an easy position coming up right now. Here they go, but that's a very tricky way of doing things. Tries to go around the outside, almost onto the grass, and Scrivens needs to be careful here. He doesn't want to cause a collision and make the situation worse.
Yeah, I know, I'm just looking at it. He's been very, very aggressive trying to get past the number 179. As I said, actually, he's obviously put him off a little bit, so Ignium Motorsport ran wide going through turn 3. It's a very, very tricky braking zone. Going through turn 2, you're really on the limit. Again, you're on the limit of lateral grip going through the tyres, and then you've got to try and straighten the car up, get the car stopped at the same time. So bit of a lock up there, and unfortunately they've gone. So Manisi Racing have moved up into P12, and I can imagine that gap is going to be coming down very rapidly to P11. As we move, this is a battle for P25th. You've got Performance Link Esports in P25, Fuga Sim Sports in P26, and Pure Sims Freem in P27. As we have said before, these gaps can come down very, very quickly. So if Fuga try and make the move and they can't quite make the move stick very early on, then they're really going to be at the mercy of Pure Sims Freem if they can try and get the position. As we see Fuga Sim Sport, Arthur furiously flashing his lights, trying to upset the Performance Link Esports number 285 car, but at the moment can't seem to get by. Just looking as well, so we've got the number Performance Link Esports 285, so that is actually one of the AM class cars. Fuga Sim Sports is the and also Pure Sims Freem as well, both in the pro class as well. And I believe this is going to be the move that's going to be, I don't think, to be fair, Performance Link really gave a battle through that. I think that was a position that was going to be made, and I think fair play to Performance Link for just allowing that position to be had there. Again, you don't want to be fighting too much, you know, like there's still a bit of time in the race to go. You've got to choose your battles as well, especially if somewhere like Silverstone, like I said, you can lose a lot of time, so you have got to choose your battles. So I think at this point, fair enough. What they need to do now, the number 285, Arthur just needs to also, yeah, the number 285 Performance Link Esports car just needs to, again, crack on with his own race at the moment. But Fuga Sim Sport have already pulled out a gap from Indy Autosport, the other car in the Pro Class 4 in this particular battle. Just looking down the timing orders as well. Again, there's some very, very close battles going on. Just looking, so we've got Morgan Butler, obviously yet in Pure Sims Freem car that we can see 6/10 away. So hopefully that potentially is going to be a position that's going to be made very, very soon. We've also got, again, just looking through the field as well, we've actually now swapped over to, this is the battle for P13. This is a very, very close battle indeed. You've got Valkyrie Esports, Ignium Motorsport, and AAA Project X.
Or DRS Wave has gone on.
That was unfortunate for those guys. Yeah, very, very true. DRS Wave going off through Luffield. I'm hoping we're going to get a replay of that and see what happened there. But unfortunate. Was there contact? Not entirely sure, as we'll find in a second. But this is the gap. This is the battle for P13. Wow, very, very close indeed. And I believe that was Ignium Motorsport making the move on Vulcan Sim Racing. As we do have a replay here. So Bruno Aguirre, the 117 car, that was, just a little bit of contact going through there. Again, I can't see what two cars were involved. There were two Corvettes.
Manatee Racing, I think, with the attempted overtake there, which I guess worked, but it was at the detriment of Doi Rikuti.
Yeah, it's unfortunate through that. So Manatee Racing again, you've got to be, it's a fine balance, isn't it, Sam, between being, aggressive and safe and sensible, I think, at the same time. Again, you've got to choose your overtaking. You've got to choose your overtaking points wisely. You've got to choose them, strategically as well. So it sometimes does benefit drivers to, in some scenarios, just actually wait maybe for a few laps, just to try and assess the situation, see where a move could potentially be set up, and see where they're quicker, where they're slower as well. So you've got to be a little bit careful for these positions as well.
Yes, certainly. But up to 11, got a little bit of a gap now to the couple of amateur leaders. Two amateur leaders, Kairos competition leading the way, albeit the 24 car will be getting a post-race penalty for not picking the right number. But Kairos competition 238, which won round 1. And looking very strong at the moment, but Manatee Racing catching up to them very quickly. Here is T3 Esports, who of course won the, or were very successful in the sim race as well, GT Endurance Championship in the GT3 cars. These cars aren't too dissimilar, as they are just about making their way past one of the back markers, and that is Mike Chukinski for XP Motorsports, one lap down. However, needed contact being made between them. Evo SR on screen, and this is Tom McMahon, two-time defending champion. He's not going to win this season after a non-finish in round 1 of the championship, or it did finish to be fair, but on the outskirts of the top 20. So he's not going to win this season with Evo SR. However, a good result is possible, and they've got a few cars only just up the road. One of them is AAA Project X, who after starting in 44th position are up into the top 12. Them, Manatee and Evo SR are going to be absolutely flying through the order in the latter stages with some very competitive drivers in those cars. So certainly watch out for them. They'll be catching up to the two Kairos competition cars, I'm sure, by the end of the race. But McMahon, what was that last lap time for him? At 58.26, which isn't too prolific, although that may have involved an overtake, to be fair. So head into the hairpin for the 28th time in this race. And they're all bunching up. This will be a 7-car battle race.
Yeah, I know. This is going to be very, very close indeed. So what you want, I suppose, Valkyrie Esports want to try and make the move on AAA Project X, but they want to try and do it as cleanly and as quickly as they can. If they start, battling too hard, then all they're going to do is allow the guys behind to catch up very, very quickly. So as you say, Sam, this battle for 12 could very, very, very quickly turn into a 5-way battle, not just a 2-way battle. I think Benjamin, what he's going to do is going to make the complete opposite. He's going to want to try and back Valkyrie Esports up into the clutches of Vulcan Sim Racing and Evo SR. So interesting to see how this develops. A little bit of time left in the session, a little bit wide there as though, just noting as well, a little bit wide from the Porsche just going through on the exit of Cops. So we've got 3 guys, no name, having a bit of a lonesome latter half of the race. So you've got Michael Diaz currently in the car, number 140. So yeah, currently in P6. He's a couple of seconds behind Fuka Sim Sport and a couple of seconds in front of Pacific Sim Sport. So at the moment, they're just doing their own race. They're doing what they can. They're putting the lap times in and they're doing what they need to do. So a comfortable P6 at the moment for these guys.
Yeah, and I thought that 3 guys no team were going to be a little bit further up the order. They have got some insane iRatings. I'll quickly try to find it on our sheet. But yeah, their team is absolutely ridiculous with the iRatings that they have got. So I think they're pretty much all over 6k, to be fair, which is very impressive. But yeah, some of the best drivers on the grid, so it's hardly surprising that they're being able to put in some really good performances so far. And I'm still trying to just find, well, there you go. So their iRatings are 5,300, 7,000 and 7,000, which is not bad. So they are, I think they may well have the highest average iRating out there on the circuit, so they are doing very well at the moment. But Mohamed Janko is still ahead of them. Much lower ranked is Janko. I think it's just over 3k, but holding his own at the moment in that 3rd position for Vulcan Sim Racing. He raced in the Apex Racing League GT Championship last season, which will be returning to its normal format, of course, in the new year. And if you're looking to get involved in any sim racing, then or any iRacing, then do go to Apex Racing League, our website, apexracingleague.com, and you can find sign-up details for our various series. Of course, winter is coming up, or Christmas is coming up. So we're shutting down over that, and we'll be not having too many series over that time, but certainly in January we'll have a bunch of the series to enter. And of course also on the Apex Racing League website we also have race reports, so there'll be a race report for this race as well, along with all of our other series, the F3 Championship, the Porsche Cup Championship, also the Touring Car Championship as well, and other series we've covered as well, like the Apex Racing Academy GT4 Championship. So certainly do go to Apex Racing Academy, check out our Facebook page as well, where there'll be a few updates as well, and also the Apex Racing TV social media pages on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And whilst you're here, of course, subscribe to Apex Racing TV. Great to see so many people watching along with us tonight, along with last week as well. Hopefully you're enjoying the action at the moment as we kind of cycle through the order. Something's happened to the Cars Competition 24 car. Maybe not something's happened, to be fair. I think they just dropped a place quite ordinarily to Manatee Racing, but I thought it would take a little bit longer for them to be caught. but that is the pace of Manatee Racing. They did gain by 1.2 seconds on that last lap, so up into 10th position. By the way, Dylan Scrivens, I'm not sure if he's actually in that car. He may have a slight glitch there. So I'm not sure if it is actually Dylan driving that car. But whoever is driving it is doing extremely well for Manatee Racing, and they're just trying to recover as many points as they can for their championship. In fact, it was a mistake then for Kevin Finn, I think, because these are the two cars, competition cars, very close to one another, and now there's quite a divide between the two of them, so we're about to see how this occurs. And going through the loop, Kevin Finn at the moment finding it all right, but yeah, soon losing the car. I imagine maybe this isn't quite the replay that we were hoping it would be, but yeah, certainly a mistake then for the Cars Competition 24 car.
Yeah, a bit of a shame from that. Obviously, I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but at the moment, back on the main focus for the screen, and you can see on the screen now as Manatee Racing currently in P10. They've got about 4 seconds now to Cars Competition in P9. I'm going to be keeping a very, very close eye on the time. So, for example, the last lap time for Cars Competition was a 1:57.67. Manatee Racing was a 1:57 dead. Just looking for the replay here. Unfortunately, camera not entirely working on my screen. As I say that, we've just got, that was the overtake to be had for Manatee Racing. That looked to be up into turn 3. So, seems to be a textbook move going to turn 3. Very, very late on the brakes from the Manatee Racing car. So, yeah, a very, very textbook move going through turn 3 there. So, like I said, and he's very much capitalised on that. And he's now started to pull away. He's now riding on board with the Corvette for Tom McMahon in the Evo SR car. Only about 4/10 away from Vulcan, about half a second away from Vulcan Sim Racing. And Vulcan Sim Racing is only about 4/10 away from Valkyrie Esports. So this battle is really hotting up now. We've got 19 minutes left, and that's not too long now. So I think the drivers are going to be starting to really get in there, probably up in the aggression a little bit. You're going to see some more frequent overtakes here. You're going to be people, you're probably going to see people sort of like really sort of pulling out cars. You're going to see people that's going to be trying to make overtakes. They're going to try and put the car in a position that's going to upset the other driver. Okay, so we've got 19 minutes left, so this is really going to start to be, happen a bit more frequently, I think. But the gap is closing. Valkyrie Esports again losing a bit of time from Vulcan Sim Racing. They caught up a little bit now. The gap is just under 0.2 of a second. We're going to try and make a move. That is Vulcan Sim Racing going to try and go up the inside. Going to be the outside for Club. Is he going to do the cutback? He doesn't quite manage it. Although I say that, going through the last corner, that's very, very close indeed by these drivers. Just about giving each other enough room. Is there going to be made into turn 1? I don't think there is. It's Porsche versus Corvette. So at the moment, the Corvette is outnumbered 2-1. And then we've got the BMW of WS Racing Esports that's going to be trying to make a move as well. As I say that, that's going to be very, very close. There was the smallest of touches, unfortunately, for Vulcan Sim Racing. But they have now, as I say that, this is going to be 2x2 going through turn 4. This is so close racing. This is very, very close. It's going to, hopefully it's not going badly, but at the moment these drivers are just about giving each other enough room. And at the moment, Valkyrie Esports, they've still managed at this moment in time to come out on top. What a race this is becoming for the P13s. We've got a bit more contact as well. Vulcan Sim Racing trying to hold off Evo SR, and then we've got WS Racing going to try and go around the outside of Lovefield on the number 148 Corvette. Doesn't quite work, although they have done the cutback. This is potentially going to be a textbook cutback from WS Racing. They're going to have the inside line going through Cops. I think they're going to make this move stick, providing Evo SR they're not going to try and go on the outside, and they do. They're still side by side as we've got Evo SR going very, very wide. Still side by side going through Magnus and Beckett's. One of them is going to have to back out eventually. They can't go through side by side Magnus and Beckett's, and they don't. So Evo SR going, as I say that, I believe there's been contact. I believe there has been contact, and the Evo SR car has gone off. You just see a little red icon flash up for the number 15 car, and yes, they have dropped down a position. So Evo SR, unfortunately, losing out on that and have dropped down to P16. But up until that point, what a race from these guys here, Sam. That was incredible.
Yeah, it sure was, and that was just Esports making a slide, and they couldn't slow the car down, and that was a good from the Vulcan car. Apologies, from the WS Racing car to turn out of that one and get away scot-free. Of course, Joel Evans, the Apex Racing Academy GT4 champion from a couple of months ago, so it's pretty cool to see Evans then go up against McMahon for a little bit, and maybe that will renew later on, as this is all of a sudden got very close. So coming out of the pits, Grabau had a decent gap on Bonjour, but that gap has quickly come down, and after kind of keeping the gap by about 2.5 seconds, the gap has been coming down by about half a second in the last few laps, and it may have just been the traffic which has held them up. Ooh, that was the contact then with Grabau, and he managed to get away with that then. Where was the AAA car? So the AAA car was right behind. Why did we get that same replay? But just from their perspective, I just wonder if they picked up any damage from this one. So we see thanks to Alex Simpson, who also raising the cameras. And unfortunately he couldn't quite get into the lead here because he had nowhere to go. So I think both teams would have picked up the same amount of damage there, but it's taken what was a 2.5 second advantage into a 0.6 of a second advantage. And now in the draft, this race is right back on. Wild Animals, of course, came out second best to Manatee Racing last night at Daytona in a last lap scrap. This time they got AAA Esports, trying to deny them their first race win of the season.
I know this is going to be very, very close towards the end of the race. Like I said, we've only got 15 minutes left, so I said the aggression is going to be ramping up a little bit now. We've just got Max Wolf in the YouTube chat as well saying, to be fair, the battles in this series are something else so good. And that is, I could not agree with you. I think, to be fair, I speak for both Alex and Sam here, we couldn't agree with you more. The battles in this event that we've had so far and in this series have been incredible. So at the moment, we've just gone back on board with the leaders. So P1 and P2. Wild Animals still leading in the 127 Porsche, but the number 162 AAA Esports Porsche hot on their heels. I think the gap has pretty much stayed the same. How the lap times are going to fare, I don't really know. We're not going to know, obviously, until they come across the start-finish line, but I'm looking at sector times, and they are just neck and neck. For example, on their last lap, or this lap that they're just going through now, Sector 2 for these guys was both a 22.03 in Sector 2 for both of these drivers. This is how close this race is going to be, and this is how close the race is going to be all the way now for the next 14 minutes. If they are doing sector times that are identical, it's going to be traffic, as we can see that we've got some traffic coming up as well. This is going to play a factor into it 100%. So how these drivers are going to cope with this, I think what AAA Esports need to do, if they can get onto the back of Wild Animals, they can really get up to them. As I said, they have dropped back a little bit. The gap's now 0.8 of a second, but what they need to do, they've got 3 cars now that they're going to have to try and negotiate. I think if AAA Esports can get onto the back of Wild Animals, they're going to need to follow through. When there is they're going to need to follow Wild Animals and try and make those positions up as soon as Wild Animals makes the positions as well. You cannot afford to lose any positions here until you can't afford to lose any time, especially, as I said, when the racing is this close. At the moment, though, I don't think it's going to fare in AAA Esports advantage, unless, on the other hand, though, and obviously on the other side of the coin, is Wild Animals are going to get held up by these two battling at the moment. So again, we don't know. We've got 30 minutes left of the race. We don't really know how it's going to go. I think at the moment, potentially, Wild Animals have got the pace in terms of out-and-outright performance. They've got the pace to pull away, and they have done ever so slightly. But the traffic is just going to throw a massive spanner into the works, and it's just going to put everything out of sync. And we're going to try and see how they negotiate it. I believe the Corvette has let these two cars by, so I can't quite see who that Corvette was, but fair play to them. So the Corvette hasn't made a difference. Although go through Magnussen Beckett now, you've got 1 hours behind the Ferrari. So this is also going to have a little bit of an effect. We've got that is Mark Hutchinson for the Evo SR car. And that was Eclipse Racing, so from Matthew Sewell from the Eclipse Racing team, just backing off, going through into Cops. So fair play to him. Is this going to be another carbon copy of what it's going to do? We've got Wild Animals, we've got Artem furiously flashing lights, and that's a very, very, that was very interesting. That could have ended very, very badly indeed, going through Stowe. But at the moment, Artem can't quite find a way past the Ferrari. So, and this is just allowing at the moment, you can see the gap on the right-hand side of the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You can see the lap times coming down though, as we've got someone in the pits. That is position number 40. Just trying to see who that is on the live timing screens. That is Joe Ferguson for the Scale Freak Corvette in the pits. I believe, although I could very well be mistaken, we'll have to see who that is in a little bit. But yes, so they are in the pits. And at the moment, so finally, both of these guys, so Wild Animals and the AAA Esports car, have just been released from that Ferrari. And the gap, if I'm honest, hasn't really changed. It's come down ever so slightly, maybe a couple of tenths. And as I say that, Murray has lost another couple of tenths there. So I think out and outright pace, providing no traffic is really involved in this, we've got, I think, Wild Animals and I'm just trying to again see just who on the timing screen. So we've got Artem. I think at the moment he has just got the out and outright pace for him. But with 10 minutes left, who knows, anything can happen.
It certainly could. It's not because that pace has kind of ebbed and flowed, but I guess it's just because of the traffic, benefiting one driver then harming the other, as Manatee Racing just getting ahead of Cars Competition 238, which is kind of what we expect to say. Manatee Racing, once again, I remind championship leaders going into this meeting, but down in 9th place after a penalty at their pit stop sent them plunging down the order. Could they get any further up, Manatee? Maybe one or two more places, but maybe they might catch up to Pure Sims, but that'll be as far as they can get. Of course, Wild Animals finishing 2nd place last time out at Daytona. AAA finished 3rd. So this is more important for AAA than it is for Wild Animals to score some big points, because if AAA did lose out to Wild Animals here, that they would need to win both races in order to guarantee the championship. Obviously, they can maybe assume that Wild Animals would have a poor result of their own, but they are at risk of going 13 points behind Wild Animals if they cannot get past right now. So yeah, plenty of pressure on them with 10 minutes to go. We have been absolutely spoiled with these couple of finishes for the first few rounds of the season. There is Manatee already sprinting away from Cars Competition. Cars Competition still top of the amateur drivers, however, so all good for them. And yes, still going to beat their teammates. Here is Pure Sims Esports, who did finish 4th place last week. At the moment occupying 8th place, so only 2.5 seconds off Jesse Webb there for Pacific Sims Motorsport. And that gap, I think, coming down a little bit on that past lap, yeah, by a couple of tenths of a second, but no sign of a battle there. Good battle going on at the moment is Mark Jones, Adam Coles and Kevin Kisman for 24th, 25th and 26th. Fuga Sim Sports battling the two Indy Autosports cars, and those two Indy Autosports cars have been pretty much line astern for this entire race. They were right with one another earlier on when you had Kroon and Wolf in those cars. It's the BMW who's now ahead, or sorry, the 218 car is now ahead of the 211, and now the 218 is ahead of the 214, but not for long, because Adam Coles went in a bit too deep and has lost one position to their teammates. So Indy Autosport having a much better round than they did last time, but still not quite getting the most out of those cars, because they do really have one of the best lineups in the amateur categories. Plenty of experience for those guys. But then on to the back of the Fuga Sim Sports car, being driven by Mark Jones at the moment, and we'll have to defend into the first chicane and then into the loop. But yeah, no move at the moment between these three.
Yeah, it's been really, really good indeed. So this is going to be something that's going to be a little bit more, and there's going to be a lot more battling as well for the last 8 minutes, I'm sure, between these three. So this battle for P24 is definitely not over, as we're going to have the Indy Autosport cars going to, at the moment, I think they're ganging up on the Fuga Simsport car, trying to work together at this point, and at the moment they have done so. Unless Fuga Simsport can try and make the move back, they have indeed. So they've pushed the number 218 Indy Autosport car out wide. However, they are going to get the cutback. This could be a very textbook cutback. Doesn't quite make it work though. So Fuga Simsport putting their car exactly where it needs to be, and that has allowed the number 211 Indy Autosport car to pull away. This battle is definitely not over yet. As I said, you know, we've got 8 minutes left of the race, and the aggression is definitely ramping up. We've just been looking as well. So I think the AAA Esports car at the moment, they seem to be, for that period of time we haven't, they're just overdriving a little bit. They seem to have clawed something back, though. The gap was actually down. It dropped down to about 6-7 tenths of a second. It's now gone back up to 8 tenths, you can see on the relative on the left-hand side. But it's sort of staying there or thereabouts. I think AAA Esports need to really pull something out of the bag to try and not only catch up to Wild Animals, but try and ultimately pass them as well. As we've got the battle for P15, we've got WS Racing Esports and the 192 BMW racing the number 148 Corvette of Evo SR. So this is the battle for P15. 5 minutes left. Another couple of laps, 2, potentially 3 laps here. We've got Till currently driving the 192 BMW, holding off very, very well indeed. Again, putting his position, putting the car exactly where it needs to be. I think the overtaking positions are probably going to be going through into Stowe after the hangar straight. That's where you're going to have a lot of overspeed on the car behind, especially because at the moment the WS Racing Esports car hasn't got a toe in front of him. However, the Corvette of Evo SR does indeed. Okay, so that's going to be a potential overtaking move. So we'll have to see how this develops. Also be interesting to see how much, if there's going to be any aero loss going through here. So are we going to find, you may find that Evo SR drop back ever so slightly going through Magnus and Beckett's. And just looking at the relatives now, you can see they've dropped about a tenth back. So this is where the aero wake starts getting into, coming into factor here. But now it goes in the complete opposite direction. So now it's in Evo SR's favour because they've got the draft all the way down the hangar straight. You can see gap is coming down. So the gap is now just about to be 210. Is it going to be a late lunge? It doesn't seem to be. No. So a little bit of a shame there. You can't quite. I see there's contact. No. That's Knight Shrivens that's been spun around by one of the Porsches. Couldn't quite see who that was. So that's Kara's competition there. Unfortunately, losing out on a position. I'm sure we're going to get a replay of that. But that was a very interesting move that ends. I've got WS Racing, and that's again very, very close indeed. So unfortunately, losing out big time there. So Bruno Aguirre in the 117 Porsche. So going around the outside, going through so again, a brave move indeed. It seems to be working the mode. I think, yeah, the number 24, I just don't think he was expecting the Porsche to be there. So unfortunately, racing incident, I don't think, at the moment, Bruno couldn't really go anywhere else. I think his car was positioned in a way that he couldn't really go. There wasn't any further left he could go. He was trying to make sure he was keeping on the track. I think, yeah, unfortunately, Kara's competition just drifted over, not expecting to be there. Could have been a bit of miscommunication from the crew chief there, from the spotter. Sometimes what you find is it doesn't actually, or it tells you, it sometimes gives you false information saying that potentially, car's clear on the left and that's why he drifted over. And obviously, unfortunately, there wasn't. So a bit of a shame there. So what they need to do, 5 minutes left of the race, try and salvage any more positions they can. But fortunately, at the moment, unless these guys are here, as I say that, the battle for P12, we've got Vulcan Sim Racing with Joel Evans behind the wheel. Currently, the leader of the battle for P12 has just pulled out about half a second on Valkyrie Esports, who are being pressured by the 192 of the WS Racing Esports car. So this is all heating up now, and I think this battle for P12 isn't over yet. Although, as I say that, Vulcan Sim Racing extended the gap by another 10th. So if they can try and make a break here for it, and as I believe, I'm just looking, I think just out of the corner of a shot, that could have been a slowdown potentially, or a bit of a poor exit. And I believe that is indeed, yeah, poor exit for Kara's competition there. So Evo SR by Tom McMahon, capitalising on the position, he's moved up into P15. So really, really close racing for here, and we've got 2 laps left.
Yep, and here was incident for Alex Moore just a moment ago for Fuga Sim Sports. Something has happened as he gets a hit from the Porsche and then the Corvette, and there may have even been more cars involved. That actually the BMW who came across them did well to avoid. So you just at the order that possibly could have been Morgan Butler in the Pure Sims Corvette. Managed to pick his way through that one. That's the nearest Corvette I can see on the screen. As we are moving on to the last lap of the race, and the gap between the top 2 is 9/10 of a second, and they've got a 20-second gap to the rest of the order. And that last lap, Omri Bonjour managed to get the gap down by 2/10 of a second. Just as it looked as though AAA Esports were fading out of contention, they did have a good lap that last time round. Then on this lap, 10th of a second faster through the first sector for the second place team. and then sector 2 messed up on my screen at least, but then sector 3 a little bit faster for Gribel, sector 4 slightly faster for Bonjour, and then sector 5 pretty much matching one another. So another 10th.5 faster for Bonjour, he's got the gap down to 7/10, and then catching up to some traffic. And that is Pure Sims Freem and Performance Link Esports, who's in the middle of the circuit, and the second place team had to make evasive action. AAA Esports had to be on the toes there, and the gap extends to 1.3 seconds crucially, and that might just be the fight gone. We saw a similar situation at Daytona, of course, last time when Wild Animals made a mistake at the start of the final lap, and that is similar to what has happened to AAA Esports right at the finish here through the first few corners, and they've got a lot of catching up to do now. 1.4 seconds. Also Manatee Racing Game past Pure Sims Esports for 8th and 9th positions. Just now they've been able to recover some points, and EVSR getting ahead of WS Racing. Still Cars competition 238 leading the amateur category. So Wild Animals going into the final third of the lap or so. Team who came so close to winning at Daytona are really on course for taking this race win. They've kept their instance points down as well. Not going to get any penalty points like Manatee did get at Daytona, and they're going to be able to take the championship lead in a 4-race season to start the championship with a second and a first with no penalty points is a huge effort. But it looks like WildAnimals.orca are going to be able to achieve that as he heads through Vale and Club for the first time this season, for the first time in Apex Racing League. WildAnimals.orca take the top step of the podium, and they take the championship lead as well. AAA Esports finish in second position. Vulcan Sim Racing under a bit of pressure from EVSR right at the end. It was a very strong stint from Aaron Powell, storming along here at Silverstone. He was the master of Watkins Glen, but in the end it's Vulcan who holds on for a podium. Good effort for them. EVSR in 4th, Fuga Simsport, 3 Guys No Team, and Pacific Motorsports will be the next positions. Manatee a frustrating 8th, but top of the rookie teams is top of the amateur teams, sorry, is going to be Kairos Competition, who are looking like they're going to get a terrific 10th place and make a decent gap in that championship. There they are, Kevin Finn taking the flag, and that was a big result right there for Kairos Competition, and they're looking very strong for that amateur championship, albeit it all can change with the lack of drop scores that we have this season. The rest of the drafts going through now, and some real high quality racing once again there out there. Compared to Daytona, maybe, dare I say, a little bit cleaner, Daniel? I know it was pretty clean at Daytona, a couple of incidents once again, but once again a touring round of the championship, and Wild Animals take the momentum going into the second half of the season.
Absolutely. I think, to be fair, I think I'd agree with you. Yeah, this was probably a little bit cleaner. Obviously, there were some unfortunate incidents, especially at the start of the race. A bit of a shame for some drivers. Although, to be fair, yeah, I would definitely agree with you. This was definitely cleaner. What you'll find as well is drivers are now getting used to everyone a bit. They're getting used to the guys that are out on track. They're getting used to the drivers. They're also getting used to how people race as well. It's one thing you've really got to try and look at how drivers behave and how they react in certain situations, and unfortunately a lot of the time that's really only learnt by racing with them. So everyone was finding their feet at Daytona. They've now found their feet, I think, definitely more so. But yeah, Wild Animals with a very, very strong finishing position, and just a strong race for them generally. This is going to have it's going to be able to take a lot of momentum going through, as you say, into the latter half of the season, but taking the championship as well. Again, that's a good confidence boost. It's a good mental boost as well. You've got to think about it that, going from, obviously from round 1 and then straight into round 2, we're taking a really dominant victory. I know the gap was only 1.7 seconds, but if you look at it from a lap-by-lap basis and the pace that those guys had, it was very, very good indeed. Obviously, nothing to say against, AAA Esports were really putting the pressure on them towards the latter half of the race, but yeah, as confidence boosts go, I don't personally think there could have been a better one for Wild Animals by taking the win in such a potential, in a lot of the race a very dominant way.
Yeah, was a really good race man, and absolutely, as you say, no disrespect to AAA Esports because they pushed them all the way to the finish. And 2 podiums for those 2 teams. I really thought that we might see an absolutely crazy season where no team wins 2 races. Obviously, we haven't had that so far. But it certainly looks like we will do at the end because certainly Manatee, Wild Animals in AAA Esports driving at a very high level. Those were the top 2. Vulcan Sim Racing in 3rd place. Even so, I could see them back up there in 4th. Yeah, Aaron Powell with a very good 2nd stint. Right there, Puka Sim Sport were in 5th. There's 3 guys, no team. Pacific Sim Sports, Manatee Racing after their pit stop penalty. Pure Sims Esports in 9th, and Cars Competition, top of the amateur teams in 10th. Then it was Triple A Project X from 44th on the grid. They didn't even start on the grid, they started from the pit lane. They were superb through the order and weren't far short another lap. They could have perhaps got 10th place. Vulcan Sim Racing finished in 12th. Then it was Valkyrie Esports, Evo SR, WS Racing Esports. Cars Competition were, despite that spin, still finished 2nd place out of the amateur teams. Cars Competition, incredible meeting for them. Mr. Dane Baird will be very happy with that one. Then it was DRS Wave Italy, Ignium Motorsports, and the other Ignium Motorsports actually of Jakob Boshoff and Razaholics rounding out the top 20. Razaholics rounding out the amateur podium. In fact, I chose one of the Ignium teams who rounded out the podium. Then it was Fuka Simsport, T3 Esports, Pro Academy Simsport, Indie Autosports, the 211 car ahead of the 218 car. There was Fuka Simsports, Pure Sims Freem, M Science Immortal, Evo SR, Project Linked Esports, Eclipse Racing Team, Vulcan Sim Racing, Bit Fura Racing, Project Dynamic, Fuga Sim Sports, Perfect Vision Racing, Go Around Racing Team, Sim Tech Racing, Indie Autosport, PND Racing, SCS Motorsports, XP Motorsports, Scale Freak, Indie Autosports, and VBR Racing. The top 42 teams will get points because they finish either 1 or 2 laps down. Unfortunately, I feel bad. May have to change the points next season because we had it where drivers have finished 3 laps off, like Scale Freak did there, and they didn't get any points. And I feel a little bit bad for not giving them any points, but that's them the rules. They would have only got 3 points anyway. Yeah, just missing out on those points there. We have got a lot of drivers waiting for an interview, so I'll have to be picky about this one. Have we got our overall race winners in for a chat? I don't think we've got them in. Have we got our 2nd place drivers? I don't think we'd have them in either. So I think we'll first drag up Jack Knight because I certainly know him was on the podium, and I think Emil Winboat as well. Uh, um, what team are you guys, by the way? You are
iRacing competition Apollo.
which number?
It's in 24 because Dane forgot to change.
There you go. I just wanted to remind everyone of that because Dane is a numpty, isn't he? Because unfortunately, guys, you're going to get 10 penalty points.
Yeah.
As I said earlier on in the announcement, anyone who gets the number wrong gets 10 penalty points. But it was still a great result for you guys. Congratulations, 2nd position out there. You guys just seem to have so much of an edge over the other amateur teams. I mean, at Daytona it was close, but today you and your teammates were just well clear.
Should I go first? I guess I go first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I prefer the GP tracks more. So not Daytona road course. And then it also helps that 3 of us didn't have a league race yesterday, like we did last week. So I'm more well prepared, and at least for me, a better track. Even though maybe not very good for the Ferrari, it's better for me personally.
Definitely.
Yeah, we had a pretty bad race at Daytona, and we came into this race not knowing what was going to happen because we were in the Ferrari, and it was such a Porsche track, but we had done quite a lot of practice this week, so we just luckily Emil put an absolute burner qualifying lap down, and we were able to just get on with our race. And I was able to just hang on there and at the last minute and get second. So really happy with it.
Absolutely. We also saw you had a little bit of an incident, Jack, at Stowe Corner in the last few minutes. Talk us through that one from your perspective.
Yeah. So I can't remember who it was, but he tried going around the outside of me, and I thought I had him covered, and I think he just got my rear quarter and just turned me. Wasn't really much I could do about it, I don't think. So yeah, I think it was just a racing incident, but we didn't lose any positions in our class, so it's all good.
Absolutely. Looking ahead to the final couple of rounds of the championship, we've got Spa and Suzuka. Emil, which one of those do you think you're most looking forward to?
Spa for sure. I think the Ferrari suffers a bit in the corners, and there's fewer corners at Spa, so it should be good. Suzuka, I think, is again more of a Porsche track, so we'll see how we go there. It might go well, like it did here. It might go shit. Who knows?
You Scandinavians are always swearing in the interviews. You have no manners. No manners. Um, Jack, how's the Ferrari been actually? I mean, Emil just mentioned it there. But apparently the Porsche, I've heard, is by far the best car. I mean, would you agree with that, or do you think the Ferrari has its perks and maybe it will become a bit more competitive as the
Um,
season goes on?
I think, yeah, the Porsche definitely has an advantage, but the Ferrari's a really easy car to drive, which I think is great for these longer races. We don't really have to worry about crashing on our own. But yeah, it's definitely a struggle trying to find pace with it. But we should be all right for the last 2 rounds, we hope.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on your second place finish tonight in the amateur category. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Give a shout out to Dane for not changing our number, I reckon.
Well
But
done.
apart from that, don't know if
uh,
Emil wants to.
I guess just the Kairos team in general for being good teammates, good support.
Yeah, it's
Apart
solid
from
team.
Dane.
awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, guys. Get your number sorted, get admin rights on the team, take control,
Yeah.
and we'll see you back next week.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See ya.
So that was the Kairos competition car. The number 24 finishing in second position tonight in the amateur category. So congratulations to them. Daniel, we've got quite a few drivers to choose from. Who would you like to have a chat with next?
Indeed, we've got we've got a fair few drivers. To be fair, I think we'll have a chat with Daniel Lee. Okay, if we'll be able to bring him in here. So, I believe we have Mr. Daniel Lee. How are you?
Hi, how you doing? We're doing okay. We've had better days for sure.
I was about to say a mixed one for you. So, just I suppose sum it up for yourself. What was the how did it go for you? Just as a very quick summary.
Summary: qualifying was where we wanted it to be. We didn't mess up on that one. The first few laps of the race were absolutely supreme, really charging hard. About 20 minutes in, we got a whack up the backside from another person in lead at Cops, and from there it was just crawling home with our clothes in tatters, barely making a result. That pretty much sums it up in a nice little nutshell.
Yeah, no, it's like we were watching that. We were watching that incident back because we watched it when it happened. Going through car, it was a big shame there. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, to be fair though, the pace that you guys had, it was really good. Very good indeed. Is this something you're going to also take? It is difficult, I suppose, at this moment in time. It is really quite difficult to, to try and put this instant behind you. But again, is this something that you're going to be looking forward to and trying to put behind you, using the momentum that you had in terms of utilizing and capitalizing on that pace? Are you trying to take that forward? Obviously, I can imagine you will be to the latter half of the season. What's the sort of strategy now? In terms of putting this race behind you, in a sense.
The first thing you've got to say about when you have an incident like that is you can never really rationalize it. other than to explain that there was a perfect explanation as to what happened. I think Mick behind was trying to stick his nose out. He got himself unsighted of a distance pause or something, and he just overshot it. I've done it. We've all done it. With anybody who pretends they haven't is lying. So just got to pat each other on the back, move on to the next race, and hope that it just happens to be better that time. But me and Dean, so happy with each other's pace. We work well as a team, so next race should be better.
Brilliant stuff. Love the positivity. That's really one thing to note as well, is having that positivity. And like I said, putting this incident behind you and putting this race behind you and pushing forward. Absolutely fantastic. Dan, but obviously before we wrap up with yourself, anyone you would like to give a shout out to?
M-Signs and Simortal Racing Models. I've got my own model on order. Really looking forward to that one. But most importantly, me and Dean would like to thank our respective wives for being great cheerleaders, putting up with us. Without them, it just couldn't happen. So we really appreciate them, and we'll be seeing you next week.
Brilliant. Well, Dan, all the best. We really look forward to catching up with you next week. And very much hoping that, like I said, carrying that positivity forward. That's absolutely fantastic.
We'll see you then.
Brilliant. See you soon.
Daniel Lee there for M-Signs. M-Signs Simortal. That I was about to say M-Signs UK, but no, it's M-Signs Simortal. I would like to have a chat with Kenny Rusin, who's in the commentary box with us now, because he finished in second position tonight for AAA Esports 162. Kenny, geez, that was close out there. That's obviously been a roller coaster in the closing stages, because you were a little bit behind and then you got right close, but you just couldn't find that move in the last quarter of an hour.
I'm pretty disappointed because Amory was a bit faster than Artem after the pits. He was, I think, catching 3/10 a lap. And then Artem got spun by a lapped car, and Amory couldn't avoid the Artem and the lapped car, so we picked up a bit of damage. And after that, he managed to stay in the draft, but yeah, he had a bit of damage, so he couldn't be close enough to try to pass him. So yeah, only thing we could do was staying behind and finish P2, sadly.
For your stint, it looks really intense between you three guys. I mean, you're all matching each other to about a tenth of a second every single lap. I mean, was it intense in the car? Were you kind of how consistent do you think you were driving? Were you making any mistakes, or were you quite pleased with how dialed in you were?
Yeah, I was really close between Alexander and Dimitri. Dimitri was clearly a bit faster than us, I think a tenth a lap, and I was doing a good stint, to be honest. I did a few lock up on the chicane, but yeah, overall was a good stint for me. Was just missing a tenth a lap to be able to stay in his draft. So yeah.
And 2 more rounds of the championship to go. Are you thinking much about the championship, because you're up into second place now in the championship? Is that a big aim for you to take that title win?
Yeah, obviously we would like to win the championships, but we will do our best to try to win the championships and win the last 2 runs.
Absolutely. Well, you put yourself into a good place to do it. Kenny, is there anyone you'd like to give any thanks to?
Yeah, to AAA Esports again, all the staff and the sponsor, and also big shout out to the second team who started P44 and finished P11. That's great for them. So yeah, congrats to them, and congrats to Dimitri and Artem for the win.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Kenny, and hopefully you get that race win next time out.
Cheers, guys. Peace.
Kenny Rusin's there, finishing second position tonight for AAA Esports. Daniel, who would you like to have a chat with now? Yeah, just lost Daniel for a second there, so I will drag. Are you with us, Daniel?
Yes, apologies. It's all about having a few microphone issues. Do apologize there. So yeah, just looking through. Have we got any teammates? I think we've got. Is that the number 238 of EJ O'Donnell and Kevin Finn? I believe are both in the 238 car.
Yes.
So I believe we'll bring these guys in. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
Doing great. Not too bad. What's the crack?
Good stuff. Not too bad at all. Thank you. Not too bad at all. EJ, I suppose chat for yourself, but we'll start with EJ. How was that? How was that going for yourself? What was the, if you just give us a summary for the race from your perspective?
Yeah, it was pretty good. Start, we had somebody, we went through turn 3, the tight right-hander right off the start of the lap, and somebody cut across me, so we had a little bit of damage from that starting off, but nothing that really impacted lap times too much, I don't think. And then, yeah, we just got on with it and took advantage when guys in front of us made a couple mistakes, so we were able to gain a few spots. And then, yeah, Kevin took over and just drove the thing like it was on rails and did an awesome job bringing it home. P10 overall and P1 for amateur AM category.
No, absolutely, very, very, very true indeed. So, no, congratulations, really, really good stuff. Really good stuff from you both. Kevin, as well for yourself. Like, what was the strategy? What was the strategy for you guys actually going in? Was it something that you were, head down, crack on as fast as you can? Was there any strategy involved in terms of, are you going to try and fuel save? Was there anything like that? Or was it just simply head down as fast as you can?
Well, EJ did qualifying, and we obviously had the other car as well, the Ferrari with Emil and Jack. They actually qualified ahead, so that kind of it set us up well for the race, because we expected, I suppose, a strong pace from the Porsches, but we didn't really expect the Ferrari. So later on in the race, obviously Jack dropped off the pace kind of after the pit stop. The Ferraris kind of naturally kind of fell down a bit, I suppose. So we knew the Porsche kind of had enough, or had a good enough pace in it, that just had to keep it on the track more than anything.
No, fair enough indeed. No, really, really good stuff. Yeah, gents, lastly, again, congratulations on the win in the AM class. Has this sort of, I can imagine, obviously, this has added to the confidence. EJ, is there anything you're going to be potentially doing differently, taking any points, any positives you're going to be taking from this? Obviously, bar the win, is there anything you're going to be, focusing on a bit more for the latter half of the season?
Oh, big positives for us for sure. I think really, our focus is trying to win the AM category. We've gotten 2 P1s under our belt so far, so we've built a good lead. And really, it's just trying to develop setups like we did this week to keep it nice and stable for the full hour and 20, and really just be able to keep things on track, like Jack or like Kevin was saying, and just avoid making those big mistakes, to try and capitalize.
Good stuff. No, really, really good stuff indeed. Kevin, as well for yourself, is that something that do you both share? Again, different positives for yourself, or is that something that you're echoing from EJ's points?
Yeah, same as EJ. Yeah, look, I'd just like to win it more than that. I don't want to think about it too much, but like the main thing is, yeah, just to win it.
Fair enough. Good stuff. Well, gents, finally before we wrap up with you guys, EJ, just anyone you would like to give a shout out to?
Just thanks to you guys for putting on an awesome broadcast week in and week out for us. It's good to be a part of a league like this, and just thanks to the guys over at Kairos for putting together a good team and helping with setups and driving style and all that type of stuff to really keep us competitive.
Brilliant stuff. Good stuff indeed. Kevin, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, same as EJ, like you guys and the guys in Kairos, and obviously in the chat during the race, my mate Owen and Adam were flat out with support, so a shout out to them as well.
Brilliant stuff. Gents, it's been a pleasure. Take care. Good luck for the next one. Look forward to potentially catching up with you in the comms box as well after the next race. So really well done, guys.
So appreciate it, guys.
That was EJ and Kevin there from Kairos Competition, who took the win in the AM class. Fantastic result from those guys.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a couple more minutes to go, so I'll just have a quick word with John Dinkle, because he did very well today, because they managed to get third position in the amateur category. So we've had a chat with all of our amateur podium sitters. Congratulations today, John. You must be really pleased with that 18th place overall and third place in the amateurs.
Yeah, that was a really fun race, I have to be honest. Yeah, really good result today.
Who kind of were you battling with? I know you were fighting with your teammates in the closing stages, but anyone else that you had some good fights with during the event?
I think there was some red Ferrari that we were fighting against. It was really so like we'd catch up and then I'd make some like small mistake, catch a bit of grass or something, and fall behind. And then catch up again. Eventually, like when the pit stops were about to happen, I think it was through exiting left field. I caught the grass again and had a big sideways moment, but caught it. But ultimately lost a position before I had to pit. But um, it was just really, really fun. Really enjoyed uh, just being so nose to tail throughout this whole race.
Last time out, you did not pick up any penalty points for incidents, and you've done that today as well. Is that a thing that you're, consciously thinking about, you and your teammate, to not pick up too many off checks? Because last week, and particularly this week as well, a lot of gyros picking up those 15 incidents, but you managed to keep pretty low at 13. Is that something that you have to actively do whilst you're driving, or do you think that comes naturally to you to keep it within the white lines?
So when it comes to like the incidents, normally I just try to keep it in the back of my mind, not trying to focus on being super clean. But when the incident count starts to starts to get super high, kind of have to bring it into my focus. But today didn't really need to focus on keeping it clean. Just had to keep it consistent, not losing the car. Um, there were some other incidents. There was a lap one incident that we were lucky to completely avoid, but ultimately just kind of kept it clean. On last week at Daytona, we did have a shunt by another Porsche driver, but thankfully that didn't happen today.
Yeah, definitely. I was wrong actually when I said you got 13 instants. You got 8, and you only got 2, which is mind blowing to me. I could never do that. I'm terrible for the objects. But yeah, congratulations, John, for those for that podium in the end. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Just my teammate Nafid Hussein, he did a really good job closing it, and it was actually really stressful going into the last laps. I was just kind of sitting there tapping my foot, just trying to see if he could make that a last lap dive against for P17, and ultimately didn't happen. But just seeing him close, I think a 2-second gap within a single lap, that was amazing from him. So I gotta give him a shout out.
Great. So yeah, thanks for having a chat with us, John, and best of luck for Spa next week.
All right, thanks for your time.
John Dinkle there, your third place in the amateur category. Congratulations to them and the Ignium Motorsports teams. Finish line stern right there. So Daniel, next up, Spa. Bit different to Daytona and Silverstone. There's something called elevation change around that circuit, and plenty of it. Also a bit more of a draft circuit as well than Spa. Than Silverstone. And it's getting pretty into a pretty good part of the season, because when we start this season, certainly I know some of the teams from previous seasons, but a lot of the teams are fresh. We're kind of getting used to seeing these guys out there. We're getting to know the drivers a little bit more. And I think that will make the championship even better now that we've kind of got a form guide for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's going to, absolutely. There's definitely going to be some more action to be had, I am sure. And like I said, if the last 2 rounds have anything to go by, then we've got a lot more action to go in the last 2 rounds. Spa's a very interesting track. I feel there's going to be some. It's so long. I think there's going to be a lot of potentially one half of the track we could be potentially in favor of the BMW, for example, and then another half of the track could be in favor of the Ferrari. We're really not going to know until practice gets underway. So definitely going to be some interesting action. I feel we're going to see some switch up off the grid as well. We're going to see some people a little bit further afield than that we have done today. But it's too close to call, isn't it? As what we've seen again from these last 2 rounds, it's just too close. We really can't make any major assumptions because we simply just don't know. It's that close.
Yeah, it sure is. And the top three teams in particular, may I say it again, Vanity, Triple A, Esports, and Wild Animals are really right at the top of their games, and any of them can win any round, and maybe you'll see a few other teams as well really take the challenge to them in the final two rounds of the championship. Thanks for tuning in for this round of the Apex Racing League GT Team Championship. Um, yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed the broadcast. Thanks for sticking with us throughout. And of course, do subscribe to Apex Racing TV if you want to catch the next couple of rounds of the championship, the final couple of rounds of the championship. Then the best way to do that is to subscribe and also leave a like on this video as well, so it comes up in your recommended. And some other videos from us might come up in your recommended as well, because on Apex Racing TV we're broadcasting about 15 races a week for Australians and Americans and Europeans as well, and from single seaters, prototypes, GTs, um, and of course ovals and also rallycross as well. We're broadcasting a little bit of as well. So if you like any of that racing, give Apex Racing TV a subscribe, and also check out our social media as well on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's all at Apex Racing TV. But for now, from me, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Daniel Handover, and from Alex Simpson, after second best for Wild Animals for round one, they have ended up on top for round two, and they have the championship lead with 2 rounds to go. We'll see you back at Spa for round 3 of the season. See you then.
Virtual Racing School was developed to provide support to the next generation of sim racers. No matter if you're a rookie or veteran or what car or track you'll be racing, our goal is to provide training every step of the way. We found that iRacing can be quite difficult without proper training. There needed to be a way to prepare for on-track racing. With VRS, you can literally learn from the best sim racers in the world, including 4-time NASCAR iRacing World Champion Ray Alfala.
And Ray Alfala is a 4-time champion of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series.
3-time iRacing Grand Prix World Champion Martin Kroenke.
Martin Kroenke becomes a 3-time world champion.
Rallycross World Champion Mitchell de Jong.
Mitchell de Jong is now champion for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series.
And many other top sim racers. Data packs include everything you need to start learning. Our World Championship coaches create the data packs by setting a hot lap or a series of fast laps for you to compare, analyze, and replicate. Data packs also include a tutorial where the coach points out techniques they use to hit the fast lap. This gives you access to the latest driving techniques and setups before you even hit the track. Sign up for a free account and download the VRS telemetry logger. With this application running seamlessly in the background, your laps automatically start syncing to the VRS website. From there, you can analyze and compare 2 laps of your choice, whether it's your data, the coaches, or your teammates. VRS will automatically target improvement opportunities so you can get up to speed even faster. VRS also makes it easy for you to request and schedule one-on-one or group coaching sessions. These sessions can range from 30 to 90 minutes, and you can select the car, track, and setup combination of your choice. Visit virtualracingschool.com today to sign up and get started.